After my natural delivery, I was diagnosed with pelvic relaxation that left me with almost no muscle tone down there. My husband, whose size was completely mismatched with my condition, refused to sleep with me anymore. When my father-in-law found out, he cornered me in the bathroom with a dark, knowing look. He confessed to suffering from acromegaly and suggested we might be a perfect physical match. That evening, I made a point of putting on a pair of black sheer stockings, but my husband, Gordon Rudd, claimed that he had a lot to deal with at work, so he grabbed his pillow and went to the study. I was so upset that I was on the verge of tears. The baby's already 3 months old, and you've only touched me once since then. I have needs too. Don't you know you have a problem? Be pleased, just satisfy me this once. I'll squeeze tighter this time. Tighter my foot. Give me a break. You're too loose for me to feel anything. I get more out of my hand, and you'd better take my advice and have Dad take a look at you as soon as possible. As he walked away without hesitation, I could no longer hold back my tears. In the end, I could only blame myself. After all, I had no right to resent Gordon. My husband and I used to be deeply in love. We had always been satisfyingly intimate. 3 months ago, I gave birth to twins through natural delivery. My birth canal tore during labor. I needed more than a dozen stitches. After that, everything down there became unbearably loose. Our intimacy took a massive hit. My husband slept with me only once after the birth, then flatly refused to do it again. These past few weeks, I had been making do with eggplants, cucumbers, and stuff, but as big and thick as those things were, they could not compare to a real, warm man. If anything, they only made my cravings stronger. That night, I was so desperate, I swallowed my pride and begged my husband again. However, not only did he refuse me outright, he once again told me to find time to see his father for treatment as soon as possible. My father-in-law, Mark Rudd, was a gynecology specialist at a top-tier local hospital. He was incredibly skilled. People even called him a miracle worker in gynecology. He was my father-in-law after all. How could I, as his daughter-in-law, possibly go to him with a problem like that? Even though Mark was nearly 50, he was strikingly handsome. He always wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses that made him look refined and scholarly. He kept himself in excellent shape too. His body was firm and muscular, radiating a kind of mature masculine charm. Ever since Gordon stopped touching me, I had fantasized about Mark more than once. If he were really the one examining me for that condition, I would probably lose control and humiliate myself beyond belief. If that had happened, I would be too ashamed to even show my face in this house. While I was lost in my tangled thoughts, the sounds of intimacy drifted faintly through my in-laws' room next door. The noises were unmistakably heated. It was obvious that Mark had Janet pinned beneath him. He was thrusting hard, as Janet's breathless gasps and soft moans continued through the wall. I actually found myself feeling envious and jealous. If only I were the one underneath Mark. The thought sent what was left of my smoldering desire roaring back to life and burning hotter than ever. I could not help squeezing my thighs together and rubbing them against each other for friction. Just then, raised voices suddenly came from the room next door. Janet was loudly protesting. Mark's voice followed. He was coaxing her. I was stunned. Apparently, Mark was so vigorous that Janet could not handle it anymore. She refused to continue, no matter how much he lowered his voice and begged her. You're enormous, and you go on for over an hour every time. If you really want it that badly, go find a prostitute. God, over an hour. That must feel incredible. Some people were dying of thirst while others drowned. Mark's size and stamina were astonishing, yet Janet treated it like a burden. Meanwhile, I was empty and aching with need, yet Gordon would rather take care of himself than touch me even once. The world really was not fair. With a sigh, I climbed out of bed and padded miserably to the guest bathroom in the living room. Standing in front of the mirror, I looked at myself. My skin was fair and smooth. I had a body with curves that turned heads. Anyone who saw me would call me a beauty. Yet, despite my perfect appearance, my husband paid no attention. I was left to rely on myself. I stood in front of the mirror, lifted one leg, and bit my lip. I started pleasuring myself. When Janet had suggested that Mark find a prostitute, I wished I could just rush in and tell him not to bother looking, and that he should just come to me. I was cleaner than a prostitute. More importantly, I needed it much more than they did. I thought, God, what am I thinking? He's my father-in-law. The more I tried to stop myself, the more those thoughts kept creeping in. Without realizing it, I even started to whisper, Mark, harder. Do it harder. The forbidden thrill and the madness of it all made me feel more aroused than ever. I got carried away as my hand moved faster and harder. I did not even realize how loud my moans had become. The bathroom door gently creaked open. I was so horrified I felt the color drain from my face. I immediately stopped and opened my eyes. I tried to clamp my mouth shut, but a desperate moan still slipped out before I could stop it. Our eyes locked. I wished I could just disappear right there on the spot. The person standing in the doorway was not anyone else. It was Mark. When I saw the way Mark's gaze darkened, I realized my nightgown was around my ankles. I had moaned so loudly just now. He must have heard everything from outside the door. Seeing me in such an embarrassing state, even an idiot could guess what I had been doing. I really should just die. He was my husband's father. He was my father-in-law. I had just been touching myself, moaning his name, begging him to go harder on me. He must have heard it all and figured out that I had just been getting myself off while fantasizing about him. We lived in the same house. We would see each other every day. How was I supposed to face him after that? He would think I was nothing but a cheap, desperate woman lusting after her own father-in-law. Panicking, I quickly pulled my nightgown up to cover myself and hide the mess I had made. My face turned bright red with shame. I lowered my head and said in a low voice, Mark, I'm so sorry. You won't think less of me, will you? No, Mark replied softly. His voice was full of concern. But are you having problems with Gordon? Why are you? Thankfully, he did not mention me moaning his name. Whether he really had not heard or was pretending not to, I could not tell. I was stammering with my face still flushed. Beads of sweat were beginning to form on my forehead. Just thinking of the way Gordon had looked at me, the torment of those nights made me want to just spill everything and ask Mark for help. However, no matter how badly I wanted to tell him, the words would not come. Tell me what's going on. Maybe I can help. He walked closer and gently patted my shoulder. He looked at me with such warmth and told me not to be afraid. His steady, mature presence and reassuring calm suddenly gave me the courage I had been lacking. Finally, I lowered my head in embarrassment. My face was burning as I spoke in a voice barely above a whisper, stammering as I confessed my shameful problem to him. He seemed a little surprised. He said the birthing muscles had a strong ability to contract. Usually, even after a tear in stitches, it could recover. He said what I was describing was extremely rare. Here's what we'll do. Let me take a look and see exactly what's going on. I blinked thinking I had misunderstood him. I had mustered the courage to share my condition with him under his encouragement, but to show him down there was a line I could not cross. Noticing my hesitation, he reassured me with patience. patients. It's completely normal to feel embarrassed. I know I'm a man, and I'm Gordon's father, but I'm a doctor, a gynecologist. I've seen all sorts of women's bodies, so there's really nothing to worry about. When I still hesitated, he added, "Look, since you're feeling shy about it, I'll help you." Before I could protest, he lifted me and sat me on the sink. Before I even had time to react, he had already pulled my skirt up with a swift motion. I realized that my panties were long gone. At that moment, I was completely exposed without any cover. Mark had been so direct about it. I felt my face flush an even deeper shade of crimson. I could hardly believe I had ended up here, completely exposed in front of him like this. I watched as his gaze fixed intently on that place. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. It was loud enough that I could hear it. Mortified, I instinctively brought my hands down to cover myself. He gently moved them aside. "Be good. Let me take a proper look." As he said that, he touched it directly. He was examining me like a meticulous inspector. He carefully parted it and felt along the contours. His fingers were tracing the skin. He was not even wearing gloves. His rough hand, calloused and worn, grazed against me. My body trembled uncontrollably. Then, I felt a sudden wave of heat rushing through me. This was bad, I thought. At any rate, I would start reacting. I wanted to stop him, but my body felt weak and limp. My eyes could not help but keep drifting back toward Mark. Mark was wearing nothing but a pair of loose boxer shorts. His upper body was completely bare. His 8-pack abs were perfectly defined. His waist and abdomen were lean and powerful. From his navel down to his lower abdomen, there was even a small trail of hair. The overwhelming scent of raw masculinity hit me all at once. I instantly felt a surge of heat inside my body, like a sudden fire had been lit within me. After what felt like a full examination, looking, feeling, and probing, Mark finally reached his conclusion. "You're dealing with postpartum muscle atony. Some people commonly call it pelvic relaxation. Normally, a woman can accommodate 2 or 3 fingers. In your case, I can fit my whole hand. Gordon is probably no more than 4 inches, so I imagine things between you haven't been very satisfying." I nodded. I felt a flicker of hurt surfacing. "Yes, he won't even touch me anymore. Earlier, I was even. Don't worry too much. There's a way to treat it. The problem is finding the right person to help you." "There is. Gordon could help me," I said innocently. "But didn't you just tell me things between you weren't working? The treatment I'm suggesting requires a man who's physically compatible with you. You'd need to be with him continuously for about a week. During that time, it has to happen once a day. That's the only way to prevent the muscles from continuing to deteriorate." "What? What kind of bizarre treatment was that? Was that not basically cheating? Besides, with how loose I was, where would I even find a man who was a match for me? There simply was no one like that." Seeing that I was still hesitant, Mark actually said, "There probably aren't many men like that. Tell you what, let me try it with you. To be honest, I have a chromology in that area. We might actually be a perfect match." "Huh? Had his growth been abnormal? But given our relationship, was this even okay?" I hesitated, but Mark cut me off firmly. "No more buts. If your condition isn't treated soon, it's only going to get worse." With that, he reached forward and pulled my legs apart. I ended up facing him in an unbearably humiliating position. The next second, Mark eagerly yanked his shorts down. In an instant, something enormous sprang free.